When you become emotionally secure, something quiet but undeniable happens around you. Conversations slow, reactions soften, and people begin to respond without you asking. You feel it first inside your body. The urge to explain fades. The need to be understood loosens its grip. You stop reaching for reassurance, and in that stillness, a different kind of gravity forms. Not loud, not performative, controlled. Most men never notice this shift because it doesn't announce itself. It shows up in what you no longer do. In the pauses you allow. In the calm that doesn't flinch when uncertainty enters the room. And that calm does something to others, especially women, that words never could. If this resonates, take a moment to support the message, subscribe, like, or leave a comment so more men who need clarity can find it. Because what you're about to hear isn't dating advice. It's a psychological principle about power, self-command, and why emotional discipline changes how the world treats you. Don't move. The real insight comes next. You notice it later that night, not as a thought, but as an absence. The absence of urgency. The old reflex to clarify, to smooth tension, to close the gap, never arrives. Instead, there is space. You stand in it without fidgeting. You let a moment remain unresolved. The room does not collapse, it adjusts. This is how the shift announces itself, by refusing to announce anything at all. You walk through familiar places and they feel subtly different. At the gym, your movements are economical. No glances to check who's watching, no need to broadcast intent. Your breath is even, your eyes are steady. You lift, you rest, you leave. The rhythm is yours. The silence follows you like a shadow that knows its owner. In conversations, you listen longer than necessary. Not to gather leverage, because there is nothing to gain by rushing the ending. When someone fills the space with explanations, you don't interrupt. You let them finish themselves. You nod once. The moment passes. Something in them recalibrates, as if a scale has been set down and found level. This is not indifference. It is containment. There was a time when silence felt like exposure. When a delayed reply tightened your chest. When ambiguity felt like rejection rehearsing its entrance. That time taught you speed, how fast to reassure, how quickly to fix, how loudly to perform certainty. But speed was never strength, it was friction. Now restraint replaces it. You feel it when a message arrives and you read it once, then set the phone down. You don't craft a response to manage an outcome. You respond when the words arrive whole. When they don't, you wait. The waiting does not cost you anything. Your nervous system stays intact. Your posture remains unchanged. People notice this before they understand it. A woman pauses mid-sentence when you don't rush to meet her energy. Her smile holds a fraction longer. Not because you withheld, but because you didn't lean forward. The balance shifts without negotiation. Curiosity appears where certainty used to be demanded. This is how influence moves when it isn't forced. Quietly, laterally, like pressure equalizing. You don't correct perceptions. You don't defend your pace. You don't chase resolution to soothe discomfort that isn't yours. When plans change, you adjust without commentary. When attention wavers, you continue as you were. Your life does not hinge on a reaction, so reactions lose their leverage. There is a scene you replay, not from regret, but from distance. A past version of you stood across from someone, searching their face for reassurance while pretending not to. He asked questions that sounded casual but landed heavy. He mistook intensity for presence. He mistook effort for depth. You don't judge him. You recognize him the way a man recognizes an old coat once useful, now set aside. What replaced it wasn't confidence as performance. It was alignment. You move through time with a steadier gait. You don't escalate to be seen. You don't withdraw to punish. You remain available without being exposed. The line is thin, but you walk it without wobble. This is where the misunderstanding begins for most observers. They assume the response comes from strategy, from tactics, from withholding. They're wrong. What they're sensing is coherence. An internal agreement that doesn't require witnesses. When you speak, your words land because they are not chasing applause. When you stop speaking, the silence continues the sentence for you. And somewhere between the pauses, between the measured steps and the unhurried replies, a pattern emerges. Not because you designed it, but because stability invites reflection. Others begin to mirror your pace or reveal their own lack of it. You don't call it out, you let it be seen. This is not the end of the journey, it's the threshold. Because what happens next, what this composure unlocks, what it exposes in others, and what it demands of you, only becomes clear when you stay long enough to watch it unfold. You begin to sense it most clearly in moments that once would have hooked you. A delay, a change in tone, a question left unanswered. Before, these moments felt like signals, alerts demanding interpretation. Now they register as data and pass through you without friction. You observe without leaning in. You allow meaning to reveal itself instead of forcing clarity into existence. This is where emotional security stops being an idea and becomes posture. You notice how others move when they realize you are not adjusting. Some accelerate, filling the space with stories, explanations, emotional color. Others slow down, matching your cadence without realizing why. A few test the edges, subtle provocations, small withdrawals, shifts in warmth, searching for proof that your calm is conditional. You give them none, not because you're withholding, because there is nothing to protect. In a quiet moment, you see it clearly. Insecurity is always in a hurry. It rushes to define, to label, to secure outcomes before uncertainty has a chance to breathe. Security does the opposite. It waits, it lets time do the sorting, it trusts gravity. This is why your presence changes rooms. When you enter, nothing spikes. No performance is required. You don't take up space, you stabilize it. Conversations find their center faster. Jokes land cleaner. Tension dissolves without needing to be addressed. People feel seen without being managed. Women feel this before they understand it. Not as attraction in the way it's usually described, but as orientation. Their attention doesn't lock onto you because you're louder or sharper. It settles because you are steady. Because your reactions don't demand calibration. Because you don't lean into their mood or recoil from it. You're not chasing polarity. You're embodying consistency. There's a moment, subtle, almost invisible, when someone realizes they cannot move you by moving themselves. It's not disappointing. It's grounding. It removes the need for strategy. It reveals who they are when performance stops working. You see this play out without commentary. A woman asks a question that once would have pulled you into explanation. You answer simply. You don't expand to impress. You don't compress to please. You let the answer stand, even if it leaves space around it. She studies the pause, not you. The pause becomes the message. This is the reversal few men anticipate. The less you manage perception, the more perception manages itself. The less you pursue reassurance, the more others self-correct around you. Not because you dominate, but because coherence exerts pressure without force. You don't call this power. You experience it as alignment. In the past, you mistook intensity for depth. You believed emotional investment was proven through urgency, through responsiveness, through the constant closing of gaps. But urgency was never devotion. It was anxiety dressed as effort. Now effort moves inward. You invest in restraint, in clarity, in choosing responses that preserve your internal order rather than destabilize it for connection. You don't sacrifice your center to be felt. You let feeling arise from presence. This changes how conflict approaches you. Disagreements don't escalate. They arrive cautiously, as if testing the ground before stepping forward. You don't sharpen your voice. You don't retreat. You listen until the emotion reveals its shape. Then you respond once cleanly. No residue, no aftershocks. People remember how it felt to speak with you, not what was said. There's a scene that repeats now in different forms. Someone leans in emotionally, expecting engagement at a familiar frequency. You remain where you are, calm, receptive, unmoved. The dynamic reorients itself without instruction. What once felt like distance now feels like safety. This is the paradox. Emotional security doesn't create separation. It creates space, and space is where trust forms. You don't announce boundaries. You embody them. You don't explain standards. You live them at a pace that makes misalignment obvious without confrontation. Those who can't match it drift. Those who can, adjust. Neither requires pursuit. You begin to understand something deeper now. Attraction was never about drawing others closer. It was about becoming someone who doesn't need to pull. Someone whose internal world is ordered enough that others can feel themselves clearly in your presence. This is why silence works differently now. It's not empty, it's structured. When you leave a conversation, it continues without you. Not because you were forgettable, but because you didn't collapse the moment into closure. You left something unresolved on purpose, without intention. Curiosity doesn't come from mystery manufactured. It comes from integrity unexhausted. You feel less compelled to define relationships. Labels become optional. Outcomes lose urgency. You engage fully without gripping the future. This is the cost of emotional security and its reward. You cannot go back to urgency once you've tasted composure. You cannot unlearn the difference between being seen and being centered. You cannot mistake reaction for relevance again. And as this settles into your daily movement, a question begins to surface, not about women, not about attraction, but about power itself. What happens when the calm you carry stops responding to the world, and the world starts responding to it? That answer waits ahead. You begin to notice a quieter consequence, one that doesn't show itself in attention, but in access. People speak differently around you now, not softer, truer. They edit less. They reveal more than they intend, not because you extracted anything, but because your stillness doesn't punish honesty. You don't rush to fill gaps, so gaps begin to speak. This is where emotional security becomes diagnostic. You see patterns without labeling them. You sense instability without reacting to it. You recognize interest without feeding it, and disinterest without resisting it. Nothing hooks you because nothing threatens your center. You don't brace for loss. You don't posture for gain. Your life stops being a negotiation. There is a moment, small, almost forgettable, when someone attempts to rush you. A deadline implied, a tone sharpened, a look that once would have nudged you into motion. You meet it with calm compliance to reality, not to pressure. You don't argue the pace. You don't submit to it either. You move when you're ready. The attempt dissolves. This is the kind of power that doesn't escalate conflict. It ends it before it forms. You begin to understand why men who possess this quality rarely talk about it. Words would cheapen it. Description would turn it into performance. So they let it be experienced instead, through absence of reaction, through the refusal to bend under emotional weather. Women respond to this not with certainty, but with attention that doesn't know where to settle. Because attention seeks structure. And when it encounters a man whose inner world is ordered, it adjusts its orbit. You don't capitalize on this. You don't leverage it. You don't test it. You simply remain. And remaining becomes the test. Some step closer, curious whether the calm is real. Others step away, unsettled by what it reflects back at them. You don't take either personally. You've stopped confusing proximity with value. This is the deeper shift, the one no one warns you about. When emotional security takes root, you lose interest in winning moments. You start prioritizing coherence over chemistry. You choose environments that don't require armor. You invest in rhythms that don't spike your nervous system. Your standards rise quietly, not as rules, but as gravity. You stop negotiating with chaos. You stop mistaking intensity for connection. You stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding. Not out of arrogance, but because clarity doesn't argue with confusion. There is a stillness now that feels earned. It follows you into mornings, into decisions made without consulting fear, into evenings where silence feels complete instead of empty. You don't fill time to avoid yourself. You occupy it fully, and in this fullness, something final settles. You realize emotional security was never about being unaffected. It was about being unowned, about no longer outsourcing your equilibrium to responses, outcomes, or reassurance, about standing in your internal order long enough for the world to orient around it. That's why reactions change, not because you engineered them, but because you stopped needing them. You look back once more, not with regret, but with clarity, at the man who tried to earn calm through control, who chased certainty through attachment, who believed power lived in being chosen. You don't despise him, you forgive him. Then you leave him behind. What stands in his place is not invulnerability. It's composure, the kind that doesn't announce itself, the kind that doesn't seek recognition, the kind that remains intact when attention fades. This is the truth few are prepared to hear. When you become emotionally secure, the world doesn't rush toward you. It settles. And in that settling, you gain something far more valuable than attraction. You gain command. Not over others, but over yourself. And once that's in place, nothing external can give you more than you already carry. That's the shift. And now that you see it, you can't unsee it.